Hey there, and welcome back to Costa Doing Business, the podcast where faith, finances, family, and freedom intersect. We are always endeavoring to unpack the path to financial freedom, one smart decision at a time. I'm Bob, and today's episode is all about something that most wealthy people swear by, that being diversification. Most people think about diversification related to investments, but I'm going to talk about both investments and your income too. As always, I remind you that any discussion of investments is not a specific investment recommendation, but this podcast is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. In a world where job security isn't guaranteed and the market rides emotional roller coasters, having more than one stream of income is like having a financial life jacket and maybe even a jet ski. So let's dive in together today. Why is diversification such a big deal? Imagine two people, let's call them Taylor and Jordan. Taylor relies on a 9 to 5 job, and of course, job is spelled JOB and stands for just over broke. I don't mean this to be depressing, but the reality is most people work just hard enough that their boss doesn't fire them, and that's okay because most bosses pay just enough that you don't quit. Jordan, on the other hand, works full time and earns rental income from a condo and some freelance writing gigs. Now, imagine an unexpected layoff. Taylor panics because his only source of income is gone. Jordan, sure, it stings, but he's got other income rolling in that could give him needed extra time to find the right job instead of taking the first thing that comes his way. Even in the Garden of Eden, God in Genesis chapter 2, verses 10 through 14, created the most perfect system of support for mankind. He had a river running in the middle of the garden, which broke into four rivers, which ran north, south, east, and west. This illustrates diversity in the source of God given resources. Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, once said diversification is protection against ignorance. In plain speaking, spreading your risk protects your future self. Even the widow woman in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7, could have gone to her neighbors and found the largest pot she could to hold her oil. But at the prophet's word to borrow not a few, referring to pots, she borrowed many vessels and diversified in the process. Charles Given emphasized diversification as a cornerstone of his financial philosophy in Wealth Without Risk. While he didn't always use the term in the traditional investment sense, his approach was all about spreading risk across multiple strategies to build wealth safely and predictably. Here's how he framed it. Givens felt that you had 5 ways to increase your wealth: putting yourself to work, which we call employment, putting other people to work, which we call business, putting your ideas to work, which might be inventing, marketing, and or consulting, putting your money to work, which we call investing, or putting other people's money to work, which we call leverage. By the way, I have an installment on leverage in the arena of real estate, which I strongly recommend that you listen to. One of his core ideas was you don't need to take big risks to build wealth. You just need to be smart about spreading your money and effort across proven low risk strategies. He often said that wealth is built not by gambling on one big win, but by consistently applying smart, diversified tactics over time. So, how do you diversify income streams? Having one income stream is when your earned income pays all your bills. It's like all your income going into one big pot, to use our Second Kings example, and each expense punches a hole in the bottom. If you poke too many holes in the pot, you'll drown in debt. Diversifying income is creating other income streams that pour into your pot. As expenses draw from the pot, you have a higher volume of income coming in because of diversification. And if one area slows down, maybe another area speeds up to pick up the slack. Robert Kiyosaki famously taught that the poor have a job that pay expenses. Money comes in, money goes out just as fast, and thus they stay poor. The middle class, according to Kiyosaki, have income and buy liabilities like mortgages, like auto loans that create expenses. Money comes in, you get a mortgage, you get car loans, you get other bills that consumes your income with very little being left over, and it keeps you in the middle class. But the rich are different. The rich make money to buy assets. Assets create more and different types of income, which diversifies income and allows the rich to pay their expenses plus have enough cash flow to buy more assets. Robert G. Allen, in his book, Multiple Streams of Income, said, "Not all streams of income are created equal. Some are dry creek beds that barely trickle. Others are raging rivers of cash flow. You want the kind of streams that you can own. I'm talking about residual income. Income keeps flowing whether you're working or not, whether you're sick or not, whether you're on vacation or not." Allen goes on to say, income streams from a salary are linear. You work, you get paid. Stop working, and the income stops. Residual income, on the other hand, keeps flowing whether you're working or not. This is describing active or earned income versus passive or investment income. Let's break down how you can diversify your income, starting with active versus passive. Active means that you're trading time for money, like a job or a side hustle, which we officially call self-employment. Passive income keeps earning even while you sleep. This would be like investment, rental, or royalty income. Here are a few options with real life examples. You might have self-employment income, which would be freelancing or consulting. Let's say you're a graphic designer. Why not take a couple of freelance logo projects on the side through Fiverr or Upwork? I know people who make $600 or even more a month doing exactly that. How about starting a side hustle? I know an acquaintance that started baking sourdough at home during the pandemic, and now they sell loaves at a weekend market. They make about $500 per weekend, which is scalable and fun. If you're an online content creator, have you ever thought of launching a YouTube channel or a niche podcast like this one? You can monetize through ads or sponsorships or Patreon. Even small audiences can generate income on a monthly basis. I only had to spend about $20,000 for my studio, and I've made a grand total of 49 cents. So maybe we'll rethink that side hustle. There's always real estate rentals. One of my clients bought a small duplex and rents out half on an Airbnb. With smart pricing, that's over $1,000 a month in passive income. Dividend income. Let's say you invest in blue chip companies like Coca-Cola or Johnson and Johnson. They pay dividends, which are small payments regularly from the company's profits. It's not glamorous, but $50 a month can add up, especially when reinvested in the stock creating the dividend. Royalties are when you write a book or possibly an ebook, or you record original music. Platforms like Amazon KDP or SoundCloud pay royalties when people buy or stream. A friend of mine and a client makes coffee money every month just from his music royalties. And the best part, you don't need to do everything. Just pick one that excites you and build from there. How do you diversify your investments? Let's switch gears and talk about investing. There's more to investing than just stocks. Here's how to spread your investments like a financial charcuterie board. Stocks and bonds. These are classic. Index funds like the S&P 500 are a great starting point if you're new. In real estate, we touched on rentals earlier, but REITs, which are real estate investment trusts, let you invest without actually owning property or the headaches of being a landlord. You might consider buying commodities. Gold, silver, even agricultural products help hedge against inflation. I have purchased some precious metals in the past, and I really like 1 ounce silver coins, and they appreciate during downturns or the weakening of the dollar. Geographic diversification is another way to diversify your portfolio. Investing in international funds might give you exposure to growing markets such as India or Brazil. And that way, if the US economy struggles, and it appears poised for growth right now, but if it does struggle, you're not entirely hitched to one wagon. You can even diversify by sector. If you want to invest in the US stock market, don't just invest in one tech stock, healthcare, energy, green infrastructure. They each perform differently depending on the economy. You might consider buying sector funds, which are sometimes called spiders. And they are interesting and can be purchased using heat maps for timing. If you go to financial websites that track the different industries and sectors that are heating up or slowing down, you can purchase sectors that are slow but rising, and when they're cheap, and then you can sell them when they're overheated and likely to turn. There are plenty of tools for help. You can use automated apps like M1 Finance or Asset Rise that automate your portfolio balancing so that your investments stay diversified without constant check-ins. So let's put this all together tonight. Your income feeds your investments. Your investments create passive income. It's a beautiful loop. Think of it like an income snowball. You start with one small stream, reinvest, and let it grow. Why don't you try this? Put a portion of your freelance income into a dividend paying ETF. An ETF is an exchange traded fund. It's kind of like a mutual fund, but it's not actively managed, so it has much lower fees. It usually is a sector fund, like an S&P 500, and that's a great place to start. The ETF earns money, which you use to buy more assets or even fund a weekend getaway. After all, your money is working for you. So let's recap. Diversify your income so one job loss doesn't break you. Explore freelancing, rentals, royalties, and online content. Spread your investments across sectors and even countries. Let your money build momentum like a snowball running downhill. You don't need 7 income streams today, but if you can start by adding one to your job, stick with it, and next year your future self will thank you. If you found today to be helpful, be sure to follow Costa Doing Business on rumble.com. Like and share it with a friend, and send in your questions for a future show. Until then, diversify, invest smartly, and keep those money moves coming. I'm Bob, and this is Costa Doing Business. Thank you, and good night.